We love talking to Megyn Kelly, and she has had one hell of a week. In fact, just minutes ago, she put an interview to air with the former President Donald Trump, and I'm pleased to say that the great lady joins us from the Lady Man Cave right now in the US. Lovely to see you, Megyn.
Hi, great to be here.
So, I was fascinated by so much about this interview, and inevitably you can't help but sort of try to do a bit of sort of amateur psychoanalyzing, all the rest of it. What was your sense about the reality of his concern that, yeah, there's a chance he's going to go to jail? Did you get a sense that he has actually spent a couple of sleepless nights thinking about what might be his future?
I'm concerned he's not getting it. I'm concerned he's not getting it at all. I mean, there is a very decent chance he is going to go to jail. He shouldn't, but there, look, given the juries he's facing and the judges he's facing and the charges on the one thing I really zeroed in on, he's very likely to be convicted of obstruction. I mean, that's the one I think he's most vulnerable on. I don't think he totally appreciates what they're about to do to him. He needs to win. He needs to win so that he can pardon himself or pull the DOJ off of those 2 federal cases. And if he doesn't win, he needs another Republican to win. So I do think he should spend more time reflecting on it. Maybe he just doesn't operate that way because it's better to compartmentalize without thinking like that. But I'll say this. I thought the lowest point of the interview for him was the discussion on the obstruction charge. And he wiggled, and not particularly well. And that's his freedom right there. That's his freedom. He needs a better answer. Or if I were advising him, I'd say, stop talking about it at all. Just stop. Just say it's BS, political persecution. This is election interference, and that's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to hand these vicious prosecutors any more evidence than they've already purported to collect on me.
Well, I thought it was really interesting when you asked him the question about, look, obviously your life was heading in this trajectory. You could have just sat in a golden tower with a supermodel for the rest of your life, or go from golf club to golf club. And he said, there's a chance I may never see these things again. He was talking potentially about his overseas properties, but I thought that was the little insight that maybe, just maybe, he does think about where he might end up.
To me, that you could have read that either way. And I actually talked with my team about it after, saying, do you think that was Trump saying I might go to jail and not see these beautiful properties or not go to Scotland again? Or is that him saying, I'm just going to be so busy, if I become president again, I'm not going to go? And we kind of felt like it was the latter. But either way, what I heard was a man who is, let's be honest, nearing the end of life. I mean, as every 77-year-old is at some point in the next probably 20 years. And, you become more reflective, and you do tend to prioritize the things that are most important to you. And I think he does love getting out to these beautiful golf courses and spending his time with the sunshine on him and relaxing. He's very proud of his golf record. He started the interview with that, and he ended the interview with that. But I genuinely think he feels a call to arms. He feels a call to protect the country. I do believe he thinks he's the only one who can do it. And of course, he also would benefit mightily from it if it were him, if he were the one who got reelected, because he could pardon himself or pull those DOJs off of his back.
Did you get any insight into some potential defences here? Because he obviously, the correct answer is to say, look, this stuff's garbage, but we'll have more to say inside the court. Did you get any insight into what you think his defences are going to be? Because, it's the Presidential Records Act, there's nothing to see here. Well, a prosecutor's going to turn around and say, well, it's not about the Presidential Records Act. It's about what was said to this person at this time, and about, the boss wants us to wipe the server.
He tried to say that the Presidential Records Act completely covers him, and that's just not the case. The Presidential Records Act doesn't let you do whatever you want to do with intelligence documents. It just doesn't. And that's why I said, are you saying that the CIA could give you a classified briefing and you could do whatever you wanted with it? And he stopped. I mean, he wouldn't go that far, because he knows that that would be an absurd thing to say. So this is the problem for Trump. I zeroed in on this alleged, well, it's an actual meeting we know he had at Bedminster, his golf club, about his chief of staff's book, because that's the prosecution in that documents case amended its indictment and filed a superseding indictment about this one document that they say had a classified marking on it and showed a Department of Defense plan to attack Iran. And that he was waving it around to everybody saying, look at this, my God, it's classified. Could have declassified it while president, but now I'm not, so I can't. It's top secret. Now, if that's true, then they've got him. They've got him on you retained a document that you knew was classified. Your defense that you declassified everything as soon as you left the White House is obviously a lie, because this happened a year after you left the White House, and you're saying it's still classified and it's in your possession. He was asked about another interview. He said, oh, I didn't have a document. It was a newspaper article. So this is the first time somebody's gotten him down to say, why on earth would you be referring to a newspaper article as something that's top secret, that's classified, that's still a secret, quote, still a secret? No, why wouldn't you just say, here is a newspaper article that I found. It is very interesting. You should read it, right? Like, that's not what happened. And he tried to deny that he had said that to Brett Baier, which he did. It's on tape. And then I tried to say, well, then what was it? What was it? If it wasn't a new, what was? And he said, I don't have to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that. So Paul, he's in danger. He didn't handle the documents well. That's not to excuse this prosecution, because they didn't go after Hillary and they shouldn't be doing it to Trump. But he does have some answers to give on these very tricky issues. And so far, they're not there.
Now, obviously, there's the off-the-record bit, there's the on-the-record bit, but I have to ask from sort of one person who knows how to do it in front of a camera to another. What was you like before and after? Did he give you a lot of pre-chat? Did he make you sit there and just turned up and didn't say anything till the camera rolls? Did you go for a walk around the property afterwards? What was he like before and after?
We braided each other's hair, and yeah, I
you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it was professional and it was polite. I wouldn't say it was genuinely warm. You know, I think Trump is still mad about that debate question in his heart. Like he wants to point out how well he did in answering it, and I agree that he did well. The base loved his answer. It drove his poll numbers up, but he felt wounded by it or angry about it, and still does. He can't let it go. And so, you know, he raised it. It was the first thing he raised when he saw me in July. It was the first thing he raised when I saw him yesterday. It was the last thing he raised before we said goodbye. Like he raised it in the interview. There was a lot of focus on that debate question. It's been 8 years. He's won the presidency since then. He served as president. It's time to move past it, but he does hold a grudge.
But also, he's given you an interview after the question. He's clearly okay to sit down with you now because of the enormous size of your audience. He obviously respects you enough to be able to say, hey, come down and I know you're going to be fair. And let's be honest, the answer to the question was such a TV perfect zinger that I think that's the moment he clinched the nomination. Why keep going on about it?
Like, is there a more viral moment in debate history than that moment? There isn't. He did handle it well. Like, people were so interested in the question. No one ever asked me, like, do you think he did well in response to it? I do think he did well in response to it. And I'm fine with that. My goal was not to kill Trump on that stage. It was to ask him A+ level questions. But look, I will say this about Trump. He had the stones to come on with me. He knew I wasn't going to go softball on him. He knew I was going to ask him hard questions. And he still sat with me, and not just sat with me. Originally, he agreed to 45 minutes. He let it go for an hour and 20. Like he could have easily, his team was like, okay, wrap. And he was like, no, we're good. And so contrast that with President Biden, you know, President Basement, who still won't talk to anybody. And not that there's a reporter out there who's willing to ask him tough questions, Paul, but the press lets him get away with his complete camouflage routine where we never get to see the real him because nobody ever puts tough questions to him. Trump is out there talking about his criminal indictments, for the love of God. There's nothing that's off limits. So I give him immense credit for that. And, you know, you asked me about the dynamic between the two of us. I mentioned to you that I wouldn't say necessarily tense, but not, you know, just not the way you and I would greet each other. But that also is to his credit. So this is not somebody who feels entirely warm and fuzzy about me, but he still said yes. This weekend, he's going on Meet the Press. They hate his guts. I give him credit for it. So he doesn't want to do the debate with these other guys who he's 50 points ahead of. That makes some sense to me. But he will sit down with media, in the case of NBC, that he knows hates him. In the case of me, that he knows doesn't hate him, but that will ask him tough questions. And that's his obligation to the American people. I do give him credit for it.